You want answers?
I think I'm entitled.
You want answers?
I want the truth!
You can't handle the truth!
2018. Hitting the ground running with breaking news. Kentucky House Bill 2, introduced yesterday before the Kentucky legislature. He who has served as commissioner to the Commonwealth's Department of Workers' Claims, and 2, to the Governor's Workers' Compensation Task Force. A stalwart proponent for working families in his tireless conviction to aid the injured and the disabled through the healing vehicle known as workers' compensation. He is Jennings. His a tenacious stand representing workers' rights. He's with us all tonight, all on this edition of Ask a Lawyer. Next.
Welcome to Ask a Lawyer, a service of the Louisville Bar Association and the Institute for Legal Studies at Sullivan University. It's the show for everyday people with everyday questions on the law. And now, here's your host, Randy Bullitt.
Kentucky House Bill 2, introduced just yesterday before the Kentucky House of Representatives, which in part gives latitude to the Commissioner of the Department of Workers' Claims to declare notice to all, providing new measures for resolutions of workers' compensation claims. Tonight, in the studio, one who did his part as Commissioner on behalf of the Department of Workers' Claims in this Commonwealth. Jennings is here to tell us all about it, and we welcome all of you to this edition of Ask a Lawyer. It's the show for everyday people with everyday questions on the law, and we're coming to you live from iHeart Studios here in Louisville. Ask a Lawyer weekly broadcast brought to you by the Louisville Bar Association, a century-old organization serving Louisville and its surrounding communities. Pride in the profession, service to the community. That is the stand of the Louisville Bar. And now it's time to introduce our guest in the studio spotlight tonight. Through experience and longevity, by practice, our guest, a scholar of the law in his chosen profession as representative of the people's rights. Recognized as such by both client and colleague, his vocation and passion in the pursuit of the individual's rights to the seemingly fragile in their plight to reach justice, in their challenged quest to seek and to find their much-needed aid in workers' compensation. By his experience and through a keen observation over time and on behalf of the Louisville Bar Association, he generously shares with his fellow colleagues a unique perspective through a forum of continuing legal education, all with a focus and with an ultimate goal of making ours a better community, as to better enhance the lives of those injured and even disabled in the course of their employment. He's originally from Louisville, Kentucky. His law degree from the University of Louisville Brandeis School of Law, and honored there as well as a distinguished law alumnus. And as an attorney, our guest began a law practice in its design and in service as legal counsel to the Workers' Compensation Board, a first step to the in-depth process and judicious review in a workers' compensation claim. Our guest, too, served under the administration of Kentucky Governor Martha Lane Collins in the prominent assignment within the Workers' Compensation Task Force and awarded there accreditation with the design of today's full-time board and its administrative law judge system. Serving, too, under the Kentucky Labor Cabinet's Department of Workers' Claims as its distinguished commissioner in its commitment to ever-improving public service to citizens of the Commonwealth with exclusive jurisdiction over workers' compensation claims. In its vast and many-dimensioned travels as a leader to the ultimate rights of the injured and the disabled worker, a guest has appeared and on numerous occasions before the Kentucky legislature as a benevolent and a comforting voice on behalf of the injured men and women alike, all citizens of our Commonwealth. Finally, our guest, recognized and selected as super lawyer, as conferred by degree, as awarded and given to him, and on multiple occasions in his chosen practice of workers' compensation, a distinction granted in recognition by peer and professional achievement and given, as they are known, as the Answer Company, Thomson Reuters, an institution respected globally, as headquartered in Toronto, Canada. And tonight, the Louisville Bar Association, in cooperation with the Institute for Legal Studies at Sullivan University, welcomes into these iHeart studios for this edition of Ask a Lawyer, attorney Ched Jennings. Welcome, Ched.
Thank you very much, Randy. It's great to be with you, and thank you for the very kind introduction.
Certainly well-deserving, Ched. A 5-star rating, by the way, on Facebook as well.
Well, I'm very pleased. I've been around the workers' comp community in different positions and different roles for the last 42 years. I can't believe it's been that long, and I hope to stay around for quite a few more years.
Ched, Jim Ray with Jim Ray Consulting Services, who joins us as well in the studio tonight. Welcome, Jim. He contacted me earlier this morning, quite early this morning, in fact, quite excited with the news surrounding Kentucky House Bill 2 and its many facets. A lot of entries on that introduction before the House of Representatives in Kentucky. All hopefully good news to working families in Kentucky?
No, it's not. It's actually bad news. This bill does nothing for the injured workers, actually tries to take many of their rights away from them that they have been awarded or provided through the court system and through the legislature in the years past.
Ched, again, a well-deserved introduction. Your career has been quite multidimensional in your commitment both to the Commonwealth and to the client and like. I understand through Jim as well that you are doing your part currently in providing continuing legal education, sharing with colleagues your work and experience on behalf of the Louisville Bar Association.
Yes, sir. I've enjoyed, again, speaking at different occasions, speaking in front of different groups, training sessions, as well as I love the workers' compensation community and what the system was intended to do. And unfortunately, over the past several years, it's deviated from what the goal was when it was started back in 1916 here in Kentucky.
Ched, you are as well, and from the ground up, I might add, the developer, founder, and serving too, as president of CompEd Incorporated, a nonprofit corporation here in the Commonwealth dedicated to the educational and as well providing a clearinghouse as to informational needs, devoted to the system of workers' compensation here in the Commonwealth of Kentucky. And in that capacity, to educational wise, your organization has conducted seminars on workers' compensation for nearly 30 years. Ched.
I'm very pleased with that record. We have been doing this for 30 years, and we generate the profits from it to scholarships. And it's a great opportunity for the workers' comp community to gather. Our next one is going to be in June 7th and 8th, and we are normally have attendance of about 300 each year. And it's very good to get together and hear the different issues and discuss different issues as a group.
We are here tonight with attorney and legal counselor with his practice and its focus on the injured and to the disabled worker in the challenging field known as workers' compensation. Ched, this is your hour, and we certainly want to uncover all that we can in an in-depth message to our listeners about you and how you can help them in their challenges and even in their struggles as to timely receipt of their much-needed benefits. Ched, can you provide us at this time the means by which our listeners, all of us, can contact you and your attorney staff? I understand you have 4 additional attorneys at minimum in your office at the Jennings Law Office.
Yes, you can contact us at area code 502-583-3882, or you can contact us through our website, Jennings Law Offices, and also we're on Facebook, Jennings Law Offices.
Michael, let's take a break. We'll be right back with our guest, Ched Jennings, right after these messages.
Talk Radio 1080.
The story of my life, I'll take her home. I'll drive all night to keep her warm.
Hi, my name is Ched Jennings, and I'm Kentucky Workers' Compensation Attorney. If you happen to be a member of a labor union, know that we have extensive relationships with most of the major unions in Kentucky, including the state AFL-CIO. If we represent you, the Jennings Law Offices will work with you and your union to resolve any workers' compensation-related issues. I've been at this a long time. We're very familiar with how insurance companies mistreat their injured workers. Over the years, I've attended and spoken at many of the labor meetings, union halls, and annual conventions. I do training seminars in the union to make sure Kentucky workers are aware of their rights and benefits.
That audio piece, all of our guest, attorney Chet Jennings, a staunch advocate on behalf of injured and disabled workers. Chet Jennings, always on guard, always seeking, always a stalwart representing workers and their families here in the Commonwealth in workers' compensation claims. Let's go to Grover. Grover, welcome to Ask a Lawyer. You're on with Chet Jennings.
Good evening, gentlemen. My name's Grover Arnett. I'm a workers' comp lawyer up in eastern Kentucky and know Chad well, and I'm sure he's had an opportunity to read the filing of Republican Representative Adam Caney last night. He's a Republican from northern Kentucky. New comp bill he's filed, House Bill 2. Mr. Caney, they used to have two judges up in northern Kentucky, work comp judges, and Matt Bevan fired both of them, and they even closed the workers' comp area in northern Kentucky, and Mr. Caney represents that area. But he's filed House Bill 2, which cuts off the benefits for workers after they're injured, after 15 years. And he's also, in that bill, has a treatment guide in which the insurance company will pick your doctor instead of you. Under current law, you pick your doctor. Mr. Caney's bill wants the insurance industry to pick your doctor. So I think the injured workers need to stand up against this and stand up against this assault against workers, injured workers in particularly. And I wanted to hear Mr. Jennings' thought on Mr. Caney's attempt to railroad the injured workers of Kentucky.
Well, thank you very much for calling in. I wanted to kind of start off by saying that I had the pleasure of serving actually with Representative Koenig on a workers' compensation task force in 2016. And in December of 2016, they issued an 880-page, and the the listeners can't see this, but I've got the booklet with us today, and I will say that there's nothing statistically that supports Representative Koenig's bill, House Bill 2. In fact, the statistics actually reflect that life has been good for Kentucky employers. Since 2006, the premiums have reduced over 60% in Kentucky, and I don't know any other business expense that has had a reduction the last 12 years, and such a reduction in terms of cost. So life is good for the employers, and life has really been good for the insurance companies. And when you look at that, insurance companies, there's statistics and there's reports that were filed that they've made hundreds and hundreds of millions on profits. And you don't have to look very far. You can look to the Kentucky Employers Mutual Insurance, which is located over in Lexington. They do about 30% of the business in Kentucky, and they don't have any shareholders. It's actually an arm of state government, and they have over $200 million or close to $200 million worth of unencumbered reserves. This is what would normally be paid out to the shareholders, the stockholders of an insurance company, and they have got these reserves, and they basically don't know what to do with them. They have been refunding them at the request of the Republican Senate and the General Assembly to the tune of about $25 million a year to those employers that paid the premiums, which is great. But life is good for the insurance companies, the self-insurers, and group self-insurers of Kentucky. And how has this happened? Well, you take a look at benefits for injured workers have not been touched since the year 2000. And there was a substantial reduction in benefits in the year 1996. The Paul Patton administration intended to get rid of black lung benefits, and they did. And the situation has been one where the injured workers and their families have been the ones that have been shouldering these savings for the insurance companies. And except for a couple of very minor things, House Bill 2 does nothing to increase the benefits for injured workers. And that's what's wrong with House Bill 2. It actually takes away benefits. And as Grover has basically mentioned, there are caps on medicals that they're trying to put through, which is very, very bad for injured workers. There's caps on disability benefits, which this past year the Supreme Court of Kentucky found for seniors in Parker versus Webster Coal Company. They basically lifted the cap on senior benefits, which was tied to Social Security at either 66 or 67. And these Social Security benefits would only last for 2 years. So somebody that's 68 years old would only get benefits for 2 years. And that's wrong. More and more seniors are having to work today. they should be entitled to benefits just like a 55-year-old or a 45-year-old is, because they still need to support their families. But I would like to say that these injured workers, the important thing is this, is that they need help. They need folks that will help treat them. They need folks that will give them their benefits. And what's been happening is there's an avoidance game that's been going on. And if there's a way the insurance company can find not to pay an injured worker, then that's money they get to keep. And what's important is that injured workers should get what they're entitled to receive by statute. And this is what this group is trying to, at this point in time, is to take away from the injured workers. They're going to cut benefits. And what they're trying to do, if you look at everything in this bill, it's trying to get back what the KEME and the insurance companies have lost over the years, the last decade, to decisions of the Supreme Court of Kentucky when they found certain provisions to be unconstitutional. And that's what this primarily does, and it does nothing to really increase the benefits for the injured disabled workers.
We're here tonight with Ched Jennings. Our guest is a stalwart advocate for workers' compensation for the men and women working and working families here in Kentucky. We're going to take a break. We'll be right back with Ched after this.
Thanks for listening to Talk Radio 1080.
And the main title theme from the long-running hit TV series Primetime L.A. Law welcomes into this third segment of tonight's broadcast, Ask a Lawyer, featuring special guest for this special segment of workers' compensation. Ched Jennings joins us. Let's now continue at this time with the most compelling interactive discussion.
Well, I would like to encourage all disabled workers, people on workers' compensation benefits who are concerned about their benefits being taken away from them to pay attention to the Facebook and to our webpage. We'll let you know. It's the Jennings Law Offices. I'd like to go back a little bit and talk about House Bill 2. Last year, Representative Koenig, it was House Bill 296. And I might add that it passed the House, but it did not get addressed by the Senate. And I'd like to point out that NCCI, which is the National Council on Compensation Insurance, are the actual actuaries for the state of Kentucky. And what they do, they take these bills. They're the people that recommend premium reductions. They're the folks that do the statistics. And they took and they did the study, the actuarial work on House Bill 296, which was last year, and it projected additional profits of $25 to $48 million for the insurance companies. And this bill, with it being worse than that bill, I'm sure is going to project even higher savings. And that's what's bad about Representative Koenig's bill. It's not addressing where workers' comp benefits need to be addressed, and that's actually increasing the benefits. And I'll come back to that Parker decision. NCCI, after it was filed, said that it would only increase premiums 5.1%. Now, you'll hear them say it's 20%, but 5.1%, and still NCCI, for last year, when it came time for October, they recommended to the Insurance Department of Kentucky that premiums be reduced 4.6%. So the Parker decision has already been taken in consideration. And again, after 12 straight declines of over 60%, a 5.1% increase is certainly very fair, especially for the disabled, injured senior workers whose benefits would be capped otherwise.
Ched, you had cited prior to the broadcast tonight, did you want to have any additional, it was quite a compelling Supreme Court decision involving Parker, the Parker case, which you had discussed as quite compelling. Did you have any additional comments that you would like to make, or did you cover those?
We did, and I really would like to say to everybody, I mean, I know there's a lot of people saying that this has to be changed, it has to be changed, but it's not Chicken Little and the sky falling. It actually is not a major cost driver for Kentucky. When you look at the number of seniors that actually get hurt, the number of seniors that have to continue working, there's not that many. This is not a cost driver like everybody is trying to say it is that needs to be addressed by this legislature. And again, I come back to check with the records, check with the actuarial. NCCI has already addressed this issue. And again, it's not Chicken Little, the sky's falling. this again, you'll hear them say that this bill needs to pass to help Kentucky attract business, attract investment. And recently, the Bevin administration issued a report that they're tracking investment in Kentucky, and it's $9.2 billion. And we've also had people from the administration, from the folks that try to get business to come to Kentucky, who've basically testified or stated in some articles that workers' compensation is not a consideration for a company deciding to try to locate in Kentucky and compete with other states. And with reductions in premiums by 60%, how much more competition do we need? This state is doing well in terms of workers' compensation costs, but now it's time to bring back the balance that was established back in 1916. And the balance is there's supposed to be fair benefits. There's supposed to be an early delivery of benefits. There's supposed to be fair benefits, and that's what's missing. In fact, one of the states that I've looked to recently, down in the state of Florida, one of the judges down there said, wait a second, all these changes legislatively have been too much. It's broken the benefit of the bargain that was reached. And in this state, 1916, that there would be a balanced workers' compact, and all the rights that the injured workers have given up need to be replaced, and they need to come back with fairer benefits. Treatment and fair benefits, and that's the key. Right now, getting treatment in workers' compensation is very, very hard. There's a system that basically throttles down the treatment. There's doctors that don't want to fool with it. We have medical disputes. And let me say, a medical dispute, if the insurance company is asked to have an MRI done, or somebody comes back and says, I need more treatment, they basically send it off for review. It's called utilization review. And they also peer review. And what they do is they find some doctor somewhere that basically says the treatment's not necessary. So where does the injured worker try to get help? Well, it's tough to get the attorneys to help because there's no attorney fees in those. And many people who thought their cases were settled and resolved back earlier by agreement or by an ALJ opinion that says you're entitled to your future medicals have been basically stomped on. And there's many cases each year where they're trying to cut benefits off for medications. And I'd like to add that, you hear about the opioids and the problems. This might surprise everybody, and it's there in the statistics, and it's right there in the 800 some odd pages. But the Workers' Comp Research Institute did a study of many states, and Kentucky actually leads, I think, their 26-state study on the reduction of opioids being prescribed in workers' comp. They actually say Kentucky should be the model. And how does that happen? It happened with House Bill 1. They basically talk about that's what states need to basically institute, and also the federal mandates. And when you look at Kentucky, the people that have been charged and indicted and have entered pleas of guilty, these pill mills, the doctors, all the people that were problems, the system has basically addressed and they've attacked. And Kentucky, I know, has got a lot of drug issues. I mean, it's everywhere. But in workers' compensation, the system has basically reduced the prescriptions for workers' compensation injuries, and it actually leads the country with these statistics. I think that the situation you have to look at, Representative Koenig is actually filed the bill, and who's he filed it for? And if you take a look at who's the driving force behind it, it's KEMI, Kentucky Employers Mutual Insurance, and also the Chamber and some of the other insurance companies. And I don't want to say it's greed, but this is greed. House Bill 296, the NCCI actuarial said it was going to save and produce an additional $25 to $48 million in profits. And this is why the injured worker has been suffering. They've not had the right amount of benefits to them. And I like to tell everybody is, for example, what's a finger worth in Kentucky? And most people who lose a finger don't necessarily have problems going back to work. They return their same or greater. But I'm asking that rhetorically. I would say my finger might be worth than your finger. But the situation is for an average minimum wage worker that, say, earns $400 a week, lump sum value for a loss of a finger is approximately $2,200, $2,300. For a maximum wage earner, somebody that's a utility that climbs the utility poles, works at Ford, this trade skills, you're talking about a lump sum value of about $8,200 for a finger. And that's just not fair. And as I've said to the legislature many times, and I've talked with different people, tell us what you think the loss of a finger can be should be worth in Kentucky. And what we'll do is we'll change the factors in the formula to produce a greater return to the injured worker that has lost the finger. Well, I'd like to add to that, in Kentucky, an injured worker is able to pick their doctor for treatment, and that's big. A lot of times the employers send them to the company doctors that are located on the plant, or they send them to company doctors that are called occupational doctors, and they basically try to steer and control your treatment. They're least likely to send you for an MRI. They're least likely to give you work restrictions. So I'd like the folks, injured workers, people who know injured workers, to let them know in Kentucky they have the right to pick their doctors. And again, we've had several blogs on the website, the Jennings Law Offices, and also on Facebook, that people can come to learn and know what their rights are when they get hurt or injured on the job. And I think it's very important today to stand up for those rights, because this bill is trying to take those rights away. And when we come back to it, that's exactly what the incentive there is for the insurance companies, is to further reduce the rights of injured workers. And I know that the folks of organized labor, I know the folks that also work as in their network, the police, the firefighters, everybody's very concerned about benefits being cut off, especially medical benefits. And think about the police officers and the firefighters who sustain an injury in the line of duty, and their benefits are cut off. Now, this year, House Bill 2 is doing a little something different, which I think it needs to be neon lights put around. They said, okay, well, there's a way to continue your medical benefits for an additional 2 years. And here's what you have to do. Within 45 days of your 15 years expiring, you have to go get a doctor to write a letter, to perform, and get a lawyer to file to ask for additional 2 years' worth of benefits. And the Department of Workers' Claims is supposed to send out a notice letter towards the end. And quite frankly, how many people still live at the same residence 15 years ago? Those addresses are not going to be delivered. Those people are not going to know what their rights are and have the ability at this point in time to continue with their medical treatment. And that's why a line needs to be drawn in the sand that basically protects the rights of injured workers to their related medicals and to increase their disability benefits. Like, for example, the police officers that sustain injuries in the line of duty, or the firefighter. They should not have to go out and get a lawyer to try to continue their benefits. They should be entitled to those for life. And that's also true for every injured worker in Kentucky.
The subject matter of tonight's broadcast here on Ask a Lawyer, Ched Jennings is our guest. Ched, let's give our listeners again contact information for you to discern additional information and counsel they may need with regard to workers' compensation at the Jennings Law Offices.
Well, you can reach me by telephone. One thing that we do at our office is take pride in returning all telephones, calls, and to keep our clients informed as to what their rights are and what's happening in their case. The phone number for the office is 502-583-3882. And you also can touch base with us through the website, Jennings Law Offices, and also through the Facebook. And pay attention, if you don't mind, to the blogs and the other things that are on there for information purposes. We want to hear from you early so that we can give you advice as to your rights. Just like I said, your right to pick a doctor for treatment. Too often we see where people think the company's trying to be nice for them, and they're sending them to these company doctors for treatment, and that's not the way you need to go, quite frankly. You need to break those chains and be able to pick your doctor for treatment.
Ched, we're in deep stretch, as we say in Kentucky. It's known for bourbon and horse racing. We're in deep stretch of tonight's show. Where's House Bill 2 going?
Well, at this point in time, we're waiting to see, actually, and have not seen tonight, what the agenda is going to be for the committee meeting, which will be held at 8 o'clock on Thursday. And this is the Economic Development Committee that will meet to consider the bill. It's right now, I don't know if it's going to be on the agenda or not, but that's going to be the first step for the hearing on this bill. And we plan on having as many people be there that day when they've heard, so that the committee hears what this bill is supposedly supposed to do and what this bill does do. And that's what's very, very important. I think with the election year, I think it's very important that each of these state representatives, many of them have opposition, if they want to go down with a vote at this point in time, taking rights away from seniors, trying to cap medical benefits on injured workers, and not do anything to increase their disability benefits. after all of these profits that they've been making.
Our guest tonight, a stalwart advocate for the rights of the injured and the disabled under workers' compensation here in the Commonwealth of Kentucky. He has served as commissioner of the Commonwealth's Department of Workers' Claims and to the governor's Workers' Compensation Task Force. We want to take this opportunity to thank again Jennings, our guest on this edition of Ask a Lawyer. And until next Tuesday night on the 20th of February, until that time, I'm Randy Bullitt saying good night from iHeart Studios here in Louisville.